Okay, we're live.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our March 16th meeting. And let's get the show on the road.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Tuesday, March 16th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Of a roll call, Councilmember Delory.
Present.
Councilmember Mandel.
Present.
Councilmember Treston.
Present.
Vice President McGinnis.
Present.
President Bendo.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of City Manager Donna Gaden and Deputy Corporation Counsel Richard Barrios. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
Councilman Delory, you have the flag behind you, so why don't you lead us?
Yes, sir. Hands over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. And I guess before we get the city manager's report, I guess we have a not so great anniversary about now. So Councilwoman Treston, sorry, was gonna
I just wanted to thank you, President Bendo. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize that it's been almost a year since we were together as a formal city council in City Hall due to the pandemic. And if we could just take a moment to remember those that have passed, especially in the city of Long Beach due to COVID. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Not the kind of anniversary we necessarily want to celebrate, but we should acknowledge it. So, all right, with that, why don't we move on to the city manager's report?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Let's start off with John McNally, since we're talking COVID, with the update.
Sure, and I know we have a jam-packed agenda, so I will try and keep it brief tonight. Number one, we know a number of residents have either called up or emailed us or reached out otherwise to say that they're getting mail solicitations from PSEG Worry Free or PSEG Home Serve about sewer or water lateral repairs or insurance protection. We have calls in to our contacts at PSEG. It does appear that this is a legitimate group, but these are also services that have been offered and may be duplicative of offers that residents have already signed up for. So as soon as we get more information, we will put it up on the website and on social media to let residents know where they stand. If they are, again, duplicitous of Brady Risk, which is something that most of our residents or a large percentage of our residents are already enlisted in, or if this is a new service that could potentially benefit residents. It does appear that this is a legitimate partnership with PSEG Long Island. It's on PSEG Long Island's website, but we need to make sure that folks are not lulled into signing up for duplicative protections that aren't already offered by the city or by Brady Risk or a program that the city has already sponsored. So the council and the rest of the city will get further updates on that. With respect to COVID, for the week ending March 15th, yesterday, there were a total of 88 confirmed positive cases in the city. That is an average of 0.37 per thousand residents a day, or 12.5 a day. That's a notable decrease for what we have seen really over the past month, where we've hovered anywhere between 130 and 140 or 50. On a regional level, Nassau County percentage of ICU beds, which we know is a key metric that the state is following in terms of whatever restrictions might get put in play, we're at 22%. That has held solid for months upon months at this stage of the game. And in terms of Long Island's positivity rate, we are at 4.53%, which is that magic number was always 5, it shifted a little bit. That is not bad. It's amongst some of the worst in respect to the top 10 regions in the state. We are only behind the Hudson Valley in terms of highest. So we want to get that down as a region, but we are clearly below where we were post-holiday surge levels. That said, we still are somewhere in the realm of where we were during the spring peak. We've obviously, as a country and as a state and as a community, learned a lot since then. But we still want to remain vigilant. The signs are good in order to continue to remain, if we continue to remain vigilant, hopefully, the metrics will continue to go in our favor. The quick hit updates are travel restrictions. So the need to quarantine if you travel out of state, the need to quarantine when you come back is the governor has decided to end that as of April 1st. And then really the other part that's important locally is our local restaurants are going to be allowed to go up to 75% capacity as of this week. In terms of vaccinations, Walgreens on Long Beach Boulevard has had a limited number of appointments available for residents that are eligible for the last couple of weeks. CVS on West Park Avenue came online this week. So in addition to the state sites, the county sites, we would encourage residents who are eligible to try and find. It's still, the demand still greatly outstrips supply, but this stuff is becoming available and people are getting through. So if you are eligible, you have, at least as per the past couple of weeks, you have a couple of new resources coming online. Nassau County and the state have opened up additional sites for vaccinations. Nassau Hub should be live by the end of the week. So we are optimistic that in relatively short order over the next month or so, many of those who are desirous of getting the vaccine, which we would encourage, will be able to do so, or at least schedule an appointment. And that's all I've got tonight, being cognizant of a very full agenda.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joe Febrizio. Go ahead, Joe.
Joe, go ahead. You're unmuted. Joe?
Am I live?
Yes,
Yes.
you are.
I apologize. Good evening, everyone. At the last council meeting, we had a request from a resident, I believe it was Roy Lester, who inquired about conducting a presentation on water quality, which I thought was a great idea. So the city manager asked me to inquire as to how we can make that happen. So based on the suggestion, we reached out to H2M, who's a very respected firm who handles a lot of our water-related issues. They're also the firm that prepares our annual water quality report. And we requested that they prepare and conduct a virtual meeting on water quality in the city of Long Beach. We thought it was a good idea that, we do submit this annual report to the public May 31st, 2021 of every single year. It has to be submitted to the public, but, I fear that based on the input from Roy, it may fall by the wayside. So I think what we are going to do is, as part of the water quality report, we're going to have a virtual meeting subsequent to the distribution of the May 31st, 2021 report. And we're going to have, and we'll answer all types of questions that are received from the public regarding the water quality in the city of Long Beach and anything that's contained in that report that is put out annually. And I think we should really make this an annual event, presuming it's going to be a success. But this is already in the works. I've authorized it as part of the authorization for the water quality report. So I think it was a great suggestion. Thank you to the city manager. Thank you to Roy for suggesting it. And I think we should do it sometime in June, if everybody's okay with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. Next is Ina.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. So there are a couple of things that I will be talking about tonight. This is February, probably the most intense time in my department. I'm sorry, this is March, the most intense time in my department. And we are closing on the budget process, and I will be discussing budgets with the city manager in the next couple of weeks, as well as wrapping up the 2020 fiscal 2020 audit. So I will start, however, with the presentation of the February 2021 scorecard. It's for the first 8 months of fiscal 2021, the fiscal year that we're in. Thank you, Dave, for sharing it. What it does, it shows a regional budget, amended budget, and as well as actual and encumbrance expenses and revenues and available budget or deficit, both in dollars and in percentage points for all operating funds of the city. So we're about 2/3 at the end of February. We're about 2/3 of the year down, 66%. Obviously, City of Long Beach is a seasonal operation, so we cannot, for all the departments, we cannot really expect that it's going to be at 66% for all the departments in terms of revenue collections and the expenses. As you see, general fund is about 78% done in terms of revenue, which means that we're still out of $83.9 million in amended budget. We have still about $18.3 million left to earn, to collect. And we have about $23.5 million in a budget available for the expenditures, not of the encumbrances. There is something that I want to briefly mention. We're still 4 months out, obviously, a little less than that, but that 18.3 million figure, it's rather high. And I have concerns about the meeting of the 2021 budget as far as revenue goes. There are certain areas where I think that only 50 or 60% of the budgeted revenues, remaining budgeted revenues, will be collected, and that's our departmental revenues. That's all the revenues from recreation and beach parks. So we still have about $6 million left there to be collected, $5.8 million. It'd be nice if we'll get close to that, but frankly, I don't see how that's gonna happen. Just because we lost considerable amount of that revenue back in July and August. City lost about $850,000 because of COVID. And all the other areas are also related where we see the potential negative variances in revenues. They're mostly areas which were impacted by COVID. We got in the budgeting process, we tried to budget as conservatively as we could. As you know, this budget was in revenues $3 million less than previous years. So we went very careful through every single line item. But still, the reality is that this pandemic lasted longer and had a more severe impact on the city operations than what we anticipated a year ago. As far as water fund and sewer fund related, you see that in terms of in the water fund, expenses are pretty close to where they should be on a budget. This is more if you can annualize it, and it's not as seasonal as general fund. In terms of revenues, you only see 56% collected because the other 2 quarters have not been billed and collected yet. It will be done in April and July. Same thing with the sewer fund as far as revenue is concerned. We're still only showing basically half a year or two billing cycles. Expenses are over budget, majorly due to the fact that there were terminations in the sewer department, and they impacted the bottom line in there. So
When you say
those.
terminations, you mean that there were payouts? People.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there
Yeah,
were
they were
terminated. Yeah,
Hired and then we
I'm
have
sorry.
to-
I'm using the what we're using in terms of that's the name of the account. So yes, they're the payouts that occurred after budget was prepared, and they happen to be higher than what was originally budgeted by about, as of now, it's a deficit of about $177,000 there. We only budgeted about $100,000, well, exactly $100,000, and to date, we already paid out $278,000. So that's as far as the scorecard is concerned. It looks like we are on the right track, all things considered, and considering COVID. The city did tremendous job at trying to minimize the spending. We still have weekly meetings of the essential spending committee, and no invoice or no purchase order too small or too large it is disregarded. So everything in a general fund goes through the committee, and we send some things back, and also I think that it has a great impact. People are really looking into the city employees are really looking into their spending patterns. I'm going to take a few minutes also to talk about the results of operation of fiscal year 2020. As I mentioned, the audited financial statements will be available in a few weeks. They'll be posted on the website, and I'm sure that I'll be doing a presentation, a more in-depth presentation at that time. We finished the general fund, the preliminary draft, and it hasn't been audited. The audit hasn't been issued, but it looks like our total fund balance In the general fund will be about $2 million, a little over $2 million. That's an increase of $285,000 that we had at the beginning of the year. So during fiscal 2020, we had added to the fund balance in the general fund, in other operating funds, which is the water fund, and sewer fund. We started this fiscal year 2020 with the deficit in a sewer fund of about $81 million. And we've added to that fund balance $205,000. We had started the water fund with $920,000, almost $921,000 in a fund balance. And we are adding to it about $103,000. As I said, I'll be going through those numbers in probably during our April meetings, and we'll talk more in detail about those. It's important to mention, though, that while it sounds, and it's definitely great that the fund balances are getting more healthy, it very much matters what contributes to that, right? So did we decrease our expenses? Were we able to find additional revenue sources? How was that created? So it's for 2020, we actually, a lot of that increase actually came from the financing sources. By financing sources, I mean, it's when short-term debt is converted to long-term debt, it's recognized as the other financing source on our financial statements. And while it looks good, I don't want anyone to think that the city is really flush with cash. And I think that's my short presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
So Ina, I want to say first, it was 81,000, correct? Not 81 million?
Right.
Did I say million in the water
you
fund?
did. Yeah.
Yes, it was, of course,
It's
1,000. I'm
80,000.
sorry.
Wishful
Also-
thinking.
Yeah. So also, I just want to make a point. We are concerned about the revenues coming in, but on her scorecard, it's important that everybody notice that we were 5.5 million ahead. We have spent less in expenditures. So we are concerned, but with the spending committees, we are definitely watching how we're spending money. The one thing I want to say is that I appreciate Ina and all the hard work her and her staff have done. We went into it when I got here being very challenged, and now we see that right now we're headed in the right direction as far as the day-to-day operations. We're not talking long-term, what we have to pay out with payouts and things like that. Ina, the one thing you didn't talk about was what we discussed about the 3.6 million that we are supposed to get and how we are thinking about spending that money.
Yeah, so that $3.6 million, $3.6 million, I think that it's pretty reasonable to estimate this amount at this point. We are working on a budget for fiscal year 2022. And while we are thinking of using this stimulus money to pay down our deficiency note that we had to borrow last May to pay to meet city's obligations, and that was borrowed due to the deficit in revenues because of COVID. So hopefully, depending on the results of operation of 2021, we are planning to set these funds aside to pay down this note. If we will not be able to do the set aside of these funds, this will have to become to be raised as a revenue in fiscal 2022. So that's a
So,
huge
Rita,
impact.
Can you please start from the beginning, because with the 3.6 million, because Donna mentioned the figure but didn't mention what it was
What's the source?
of the
Sure.
3.6 million.
Stimulus money. She said it was stimulus.
Yeah, it's the American Recovery Act that was recently passed by the federal government.
Right.
Right. I just want to make sure that was clear. That's what Long Beach is
Right.
getting, and it will be in this fiscal year or next fiscal year again.
This fiscal year.
Very good. And that's not in the scorecard at all, right?
No,
No, because we only got word. We only put in.
Exactly.
No, for sure.
Sorry, and it was the American Rescue Plan, not Recovery Act. Recovery Act was 2009.
yeah.
Mhm.
So does the council have any questions for Ina? Again, thank you very much, Ina. Great job.
Thank you,
Thank
Ina.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
I just have one question, and it's just a hypothetical. Ina, it looks like there could be on the rate structure of the water slightly low, and we may have to consider an increase. The only reason I'm saying that is because the revenue to the sewer fund is tied into the water rate. And I don't think we've changed any rates or looked into that in many years. It certainly hasn't been looked at while you've been here and Donna. So it's just something, I looked at both deficits just now, and it's something, I don't know where the break even is. Is it less expenses or is it a slight rate increase? Because I would assume that residents since COVID have been using more water because they've been at home rather than, commuting to work or whatever. Is that something that you think is reasonable, or you just can't answer it now because you want to, look into it later on during the budget process?
Yeah, we're looking into everything during the budget process, and we are evaluating the results. Obviously, that's what the budget is based on. We're evaluating the results of operations for this fiscal year. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, last time that the water rate and the sewer rates were changed was in May of 2019.
Okay, thanks.
So
Ina.
this would be the second, it was before my time with the city and before Donna's. So we will look into that to make sure that whatever expenses we're projecting for the fiscal 2022, they of course need to be covered by the sufficient revenues in those funds.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have I think 3 questions about the scorecard, which I love the format. It's straightforward. And it really helps the council get a grasp of the expenses as month to month. In the first column, it says 2021 original budget. By that, do you mean approved budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Adopted budget.
All right, because that's the parlance that the council uses. We know we approved or adopted a budget.
That's
Okay.
adopted budget.
Mhm. Okay, so then the amended budget is when we make adjustments throughout the year and pass resolutions, correct?
That's accurate, yes.
Okay, and I understand the encumbrances is when we make obligations. On the 4th column, if I were a person that isn't familiar with schedules like this, I'd be a little confused about available budget in parentheses deficit. It's hard for me to
Dave,
understand what that
Sorry,
means.
Dave, could you maybe put this up?
Yep, hang on one second.
Hello?
Yeah, hang on one second. I'm just having a problem.
Sure.
It's not letting me share the screen.
Sorry, if there's a technical glitch, move on. I just thought it'd be helpful.
So if
There
you
you go.
look at the second column from the right, it's called available budget in parentheses deficit. So by that, do you mean available budget deficit or surplus?
Well, it's really what's left out of the available budget, right? So,
So if it's in parentheses, it's a deficit, and if it's not, it's a surplus, right?
so actually, if it's in parentheses, it's either the revenues or expenses are above the budget, right? And if it's well, if you're looking at the changes in net position, what
Mhm.
that means is that we had spent $5 million more in expenses than let me say how to let me think how to say it better. This is really what's left to spend, right, or to earn. So a negative amount shows that if we were to close the year today, right, or
Yep.
February 28th, we would end up general fund with $5 million worth of deficit.
No, we
No,
wouldn't.
you're looking at it wrong. What it
It's-
says is that in the budget left, if you subtract the actual plus encumbrances minus what the amended budget is in revenues, you have 18 million to go. If you subtract the actual plus encumbrances minus the amended budget, you still have 23 million you didn't spend. So when they even out, if you add the available and the actual, it should add up to the budget. We will take a look at that, but I don't want people to get hung up on that because it's kind of taking away from that. Right now, we're 5 million ahead. So if you take the available column and add it to the actual plus encumbrances, you reach what the amended budget is. So at the end of the day, we
Yeah,
will-
Donna
amended
Donna
budget.
is right. I'm sorry. We would end up the year with $5 million of the surplus
Yeah.
But versus, okay. So the
versus
thing-
the budget. Yeah.
So the thing is that in terms of transparency and to educate the council members as well as the public, maybe a few bullets would really help make this clear, because really it's just it's a snapshot in time. And it's important for us all to understand. And, this is a great dialogue to move the discussion forward so that we, no one is surprised at where our expenses end up each year. So thanks, Dina, for all your hard work.
Sure. I will change the title of that first column to say adopted, so it matches whatever we're using for the city. And as far as the title for that column, the second from the right, we will look into that as well to make sure that this is clear and very transparent to everyone who is looking at it with or without the background in finance.
In finance, exactly. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, is there any other questions? So I'm the last person. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is that we've been mentioning this, and some people may have gone on the website and they'll see a transparency portal or transparency information. Now we're getting ready to start loading that information up. In the transparency portal, it will have executed contracts. We're starting to load the contracts. So for all of those that have been curious on what my contract said, by the end of the week, it will be sitting up there minus my personal information. And then we will be loading for the next month all other contracts. We also will have a link. It will say financial information. It will have the link that will take you back to where the budgets are on the website, where the financials are on the website. The capital projects or capital plan budgets will be on the website. All the civil service job descriptions will be on the website. Also all of the collective bargaining agreements will be on the website. From all the ones that we have, the current arbitration award will be on the website. After tonight's memorandum of agreement is settled, or is approved for the fire department, it too will be on the website. And any other information that we get a lot of foils for in the transparency portal, that is what is put on the website, so that people don't have to send foils. They can go on there and pull it up themselves. So that will be moving forward. We worked on a little bit of it today. We have been planning to do a lot of it in the past, in the last few months, but we've gotten bogged down with other things. So I just want people to know now that you can get your information directly from the city on what you want to know. And especially, like I said, my contract, which is nothing to hide. And the people that said that the city were going to offer me over $200,000 in a car and pay my rent, I need you to negotiate for me for all my future jobs. The other thing that is really the talk of the town these days is that I posted 3 jobs on the website. And that is the corporation counsel, which is a vacant position right now, a deputy city manager, and an HR director. These jobs will be filled for the people to start in the new budget year. The jobs will be budgeted for. So where people are thinking, oh, how are we bringing in people, and how are we bringing in people and we're broke, and how are we doing these jobs will be, well, corporation counsel is already budgeted for, deputy city manager will be budgeted for, so will the human resource director's position. So I don't want people to think that we're adding dollars to the budget. As Ina has said, and you saw on the scorecard, that currently we're about $5.5 million ahead, but we still have some concerns. And even though last year, in 2019, the general fund balance ended at $285,000. So we're moving in the right direction, because in June 30th of 2020, it is now $2 million. And we're not trying to take any money and spend it on things just because we have fund balance. We are starting to get a fund balance. We only want to spend money on what's budgeted for. I think that's it for me, because I know Council Member or President Bendo wanted to make a few comments. So if you have anything questions about the transparency portal, please don't hesitate to contact me. And it will take us a couple of weeks to really start getting things up there, but several of the contracts will be up there by the end of the week.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting too that when we get bids in now, we're doing those online. We're opening those online, so people can watch that as well. It's about as interesting as watching paint dry, but it's making the process really transparent. Yeah, I just wanted to say something too about the deputy city manager position. That is a move we're making. We're starting our planning for the time when, we all know Donna is here to help get the city turned around, but this is not, unfortunately, a place where she's looking to make a long-term career. So we have to start thinking about who's going to come next, and make sure that person is up to speed and up to snuff on everything the city is going through and the city operations. And so the idea is to bring in a deputy city manager to begin to groom that person with the idea that provided they work out and have the right qualifications and such, could eventually become our next city manager. Like we did with Donna, the plan is we're not going to be hiring someone because of their political connections. This is going to be purely based on qualifications. And because there's a lot of work to do to continue to turn the city around. And that takes a unique set of skills that we're going to need going forward. So we need to make sure that who's ever eventually going to take that position up has those right skills to keep the momentum going. So this is some forward planning to succession planning to make sure that we keep this momentum moving in the right direction. So with that, and I guess I just want to add my thanks to the staff. I mean, this is all the stuff that's going on now, quite frankly, is stuff that hasn't happened before. Giving people access to information that they never had before. So let's keep up that good work, and thank you. So with that, I guess, were you gonna say something, Karen?
Yes, please. I just also wanted to add that Donna is, I believe Donna is setting up a management structure that is reflective of other municipalities throughout the country. You need these positions in order to effectively run a city of 35,000 people. I'm especially proud of Donna recommending that we hire an HR director. This is a city, again, of 35,000 people with hundreds of people on staff and $100 million budget. And in order to serve our employees better, I feel that we need a credentialed HR expert to serve our employees and the residents. And this is a step forward to have professional city government, which is something that we have, some of us or all of us have wanted for a really long time. So again, thank you. And I'm really excited that we're moving in this direction. And I hope the community will continue to support us. Thank you.
Right. I mean, Long Beach is a big ship. It doesn't turn on a dime. I'm going to have a Navy flashback and use some nautical terms, but yeah, it's a big ship. We don't turn on a dime. So, but we're taking the steps to get the operations working the way they should be working for the long term. And it's an ongoing process. So unless anyone else has anything, I guess we'll, Liz, was that a hand gesture? Like, yes?
No, it was not, but thank you for recognizing me.
Okay. All right, then let's move on to the agenda.
Okay, we're on to the regular calendar. First item is approval of minutes from prior meetings, January 5th and January 19th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes,
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a modification agreement for the flood protection for major critical infrastructure project for the city of Long Beach.
I'm going to assume that's Mr. Febrizio.
Yes.
Yes, good evening again, everybody. You're gonna hear a lot from me tonight. Okay, we have quite a few items on the agenda. Yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Liz. Can you just try and fix your mic?
any better? Any better?
Yes, a little bit. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick overview of the North Shore Critical Infrastructure Protection Project. In 2014, we put in a grant application for the North Shore Critical Infrastructure Protection Project. We were fortunate to be awarded $20,060,327 for the project. 5 years later, though, after a rigorous permitting and design process, we put the project out to bid in September 20th, 2019. At the time, the sole bidder was Pacifico/Bove Construction at $29,708,500 for the GC component of the project and $675,500 for the electrical component of the project, for a total of $30,384,000. So basically, the project came in almost $10 million over budget. At that point in time, we really thought that the project was dead in the water, but we made a desperate attempt for the additional funds. And through a lot of hard work, we received an additional $13,500,068 for the project. So we now have $33,560,395 for this project. I'm going to give you a very quick summary of the project. The North Shore Critical Infrastructure Project, they're going to be installing 2,300 linear feet of cantilever steel bulkhead to stabilize the shoreline and prevent erosion and mitigate flooding. And that's going to be on the waterfront from Monroe Boulevard to the Waterfront Park. They're going to be putting in a stormwater pumping station at Riverside Boulevard. As most residents know, Riverside is a chronic flooding area, so this will address flooding in that area. They're going to be demolishing the existing abandoned gun range that's on Water Street. They're going to be paving Water Street. They're going to be replacing all of the underground utilities that parallel the waterfront that are basically falling into the water. They're going to be putting a deployable barrier at the Long Island Railroad where the train goes through. So the bottom line is this resolution authorizes the city manager to execute a modification to the existing agreement the city has with FEMA/Dishes to increase the project budget from $20,060,327 to $33,560,395. So it's a $13,568 increase. And this is 100% funded by the federal government. There's no match required. This is really a great project. I spoke to the general contractor this morning. They're ready to hit the ground running with it. So thank you.
All right. Any questions from council? Mike?
Joe, this is Mike Delory. Thank you. The pumping station on Riverside Boulevard you mentioned, is there a location for that? I mean, other than Riverside Boulevard, is it closest to the bay, near any particular location that you know of?
It's located at basically the intersection of Riverside Boulevard and Water Street, so it's right on the water, adjacent to the proposed bulkhead. So it'll be right at the street end.
Right at the street end.
Or the
Okay.
dead end at the Reynolds Channel.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Joe, I just wanted to reemphasize, make sure I heard it correctly. 100% funded, no match required.
That is correct. This is it's called the 406 Mitigation Grant Program, grant from the FEMA Public Assistance Program. And there is no match. It's 100% funding, $33 million.
Great. Just wanted to hear it again. Thank you.
Joe, as part of the pump station, I'm assuming that includes they're putting catch basins in too, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a whole drainage system
Okay.
that's connected to it. And I'll discuss it later on in the meeting about the other one we're doing with the drainage project, but this will be a first and second pump station. This one and the one we're going to be putting at Tennessee Avenue.
Yeah, this and that other project are going to be game changers, quite frankly, for the city. But all right, any other questions from the council members? All right, seeing none. Dave, do we have any questions from the public?
Yes, we do. Roy Lester.
Okay.
Roy, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm going to be quick tonight. The gun range, have we done a phase one? Do we know if it needs an environmental cleanup?
That's all incorporated as part of the project, is to do the remediation, or if there is remediation, it's all part of the project that was included.
Okay, great. So we can't get stuck with that, right?
No, absolutely
Great. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Roy. Anyone else, Dave?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, then let's move on to item 3.
Okay, item 3 is a resolution authorizing budget amendment to the capital fund budget.
Am I unmuted? Good.
Yes.
Good evening again. This resolution is for the drainage improvements project. It's a GOSA drainage improvements project. It's essentially amending the 2020-21 capital budget to incorporate the additional $1,067,268.38 needed for the GOSA drainage improvements project. The funding is being derived from an existing bond that can only be utilized for Sandy-related projects. I think Ina could probably elaborate more on that if anybody has specific questions about that bond. For the entire drainage improvements project, the funding available at no cost to the city through the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery is $5,972,140.37. The funding that we need to construct the project in its entirety is $7,039,408.75. So essentially, for the city, in order for the city to move forward with the project, it's required to commit the difference between the two numbers, which is $1,067,268.38. Just so everyone's clear what the purpose of this additional $1 million that's being that we're amending the capital budget for. There's a construction component of that money and there's a contingency component of that money. The construction component is the component that we will have to spend for the project, which is $427,322. And then there's a contingency component, which is only for unforeseen circumstances, but GOSTR is requiring us, the city, to keep that money available. That's not money we may not use. We don't have to use. So that's pretty much just a summary of the budget amendment. I'll have more details when we get to the budget, the resolution or awarding the contract.
Okay. Any questions from the council members? All right, seeing none. Do we have any from the public?
Yes, Roy Lester.
Okay, welcome
Go ahead, Roy.
back.
All right. I'm a little confused because on one hand, we say that the money's there with the serial bond that was not spent, but it's also in the budget in contingency funds and construction funds. Does that mean that the bond money was put into the construction category and the contingency category?
There's the $5.9 million that's available through GOSTR. So GOSTR is requiring us to hold.
No, I'm just talking about the 1.067.
Right,
Only that.
that funding, which the city needs to commit, is part contingency and part mandatory. It's part of the agreements that are going to be awarded later in the evening. So
I think Ina can answer that question for you.
Right.
I will try, Roy. So this, we have an authorization. I think that with that authorization, it should be referenced here. The city council had approved to issue bonds for the expenses that are necessary to incur due to the remediation of the impact of Sandy. And we still have over $7 million left on that authorization. So we haven't borrowed anything there yet. The city had, that's the fiscal strategy of the city. We try not to borrow and sit on the money borrowed and pay interest. And we try to manage our cash very precisely. So if and when we will need to borrow any portion of that $1.6 million, $1.07 million, we will get to that. But the project will start with the I believe, right, Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The project will start now without any borrowing, and then a portion of that 1.067 will be borrowed, and about $600,000 might or might never get borrowed because it's a contingency portion. We have to plan for it just in case it might happen. So if it happens, Joe and I and the city management has a way to pay for it, but if it will not happen, then it will not be borrowed. Did that answer your question?
No, it really didn't, because it says it's comprised. Well, on one hand, it says you have the funds, and on the other hand, it says that they're the serial. I'm not going to waste time on this right now. We can figure it out later. It just, it seems to be two different funding of this project. But like I say, we'll deal with it later.
Roy, this is very straightforward, basic accounting, Roy. Basically, it's cash accounting. You have to get the cash in from the bonds, and you put it on the books. Then you transfer it to the other two accounts, the contingency account and the construction account.
That's what I asked. Was it coming from bonds and going into those accounts? I asked that.
So
Karen.
you're clear. So you're clear now, right?
Well, if that's what's happening, we're borrowing it and then putting it into the funds.
Well,
Yeah, but again,
Okay. All right. If
You're
that's
right.
what it is.
Roy,
Yeah.
Ina explained that 427,000 of it we have to borrow for construction. And then she mentioned that we may or may not have to borrow the balance of 639,000. But according to borrowing guidelines for capital projects like this, we must write, account for it here that we may need to borrow it. So basically, we are borrowing 427 minimum, but hopefully that's the maximum. Is that clear?
No, but that's all right. Let's move on.
We gotta take
Okay.
accounting 101, Roy. Let's
Ina,
go.
I do, Karen.
Ina,
All right, let's,
Wait, I just want to say one thing, Roy, we will talk about it, but I think where you're looking at where it says in the line, whereas an amendment to the capital budget fund for the remaining 1,067,000 contingency. It's not coming from a contingency fund. That's just contingent on us moving forward with the project. But we can talk about it. I know we will, Roy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
all right. Anyone else, Dave?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, let's move on to item 4.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into 2 agreements for general construction services and electrical construction services for the Long Beach Drainage Improvements Project.
That's Joe as well.
Yeah, this is a follow-up to the previous resolution, and thank you for explaining the bonding. That was much appreciated. Yes, I'm extremely excited to potentially be moving forward with this most important project. Back in 2013, the governor's New York Community Reconstruction Plan initiative earmarked nearly $22 million for Long Beach for resiliency projects and called on the community through community reconstruction program committees to provide input and come up with proposed projects that make the community more resilient from future storms, as well as mitigate flooding and erosion. There's 3 projects conceived through this exercise. 1 was to construct an Office of Emergency Management. 2 was on North Shore Bulkhead Project. And 3, which is the project we're discussing here, is the Drainage Improvements Project. I'm pleased to report that the OEM project has successfully been completed. The North Shore Bulkhead Project is approximately 80% complete at this time. And this project addresses 3 areas in the city that are prone to chronic flooding. 1 is West Park Avenue between New York and Nevada. The 2nd is National Boulevard south of Park Avenue. And 3 is the intersection of Riverside Boulevard and Pine Street. On West Park, we're going to be connecting the entire drainage system together and connecting to the city's first ever stormwater pumping station. During extreme tidal events, the new pump station will force water that accumulates in the project area into Reynolds Channel. Upon completion, the entire roadway will be overlaid. On National Boulevard south of Park, a complete subsurface storm water system is going to be constructed and to alleviate flooding during storm events. The entire road will be reconstructed, including new curbs, sidewalks, gutters, pavement, and lighting. On Riverside and Pine, additional drainage structures will be installed to alleviate flooding. The low bidder on the general construction component of the project is J.R. Cruz Corporation at $6,101,562.50. The low bidder on the electrical component of the project is Hink Electrical Construction at $577,900. Our consultant on the project is D&B Engineers and Architects. They've checked all their references and they recommend both for the project. So that's pretty much an overview. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Joe, this is Mike Delory. There's 3 projects, but by the way, it's amazing how much work that your department does throughout the city. It's incredible. But you have the West Park, you have the National Boulevard, and you have the Riverside Boulevard projects involving drainage. Is there an allocation of which one starts first and which is second, which is third? And just, if you would just mention briefly, the roadways that maybe people are complaining about now, it's bumpy, it should be, there is so much work that's going to be done under the ground, above ground, and the last thing that is done is the complete repaving. So could you just mention or whatever you could add to what I just said to clarify?
Absolutely. As far as the project as a whole, we basically have 10 months under the program to finish this project complete. We have to have the money expended by February 2022. With most construction projects, especially the ones like on National, prior to repaving the road and replacing the curbs, we typically address the subsurface utilities such as the stormwater system or the potable water system or the sanitary sewer system, whatever happens to be part of the project. In this case, it's generally addressing the stormwater sewer system. From my perspective, and I've been doing this for a long time, by the end of this year, we are going to have Edwards Boulevard south of Park Avenue, that corridor that goes from the railroad to the beach, totally repaved. We're going to have National Boulevard south of Park Avenue done by the end of the year. Another corridor from the railroad down to the beachfront paved. We'll have Park Avenue done hopefully between New York and Nevada, which is another main corridor. So we really have a lot of. I mean, this is just a few of the projects that are on the table right now.
Right.
But so I hope that gives you comfort level.
Thank you, Joe. It's a lot of work, a lot of projects. Thank you.
Any other comments from the council members? Okay, I mean, like I said, combined with the other project that we're doing too, this is hopefully going to address a lot of the flooding issues we have around the city and heavy rains and, storms and severe tides and stuff, especially in North Park and Park Avenue and places like that. So, maybe I'll be able to drive down National Boulevard without fear of losing my muffler on the bumps there. All right, Dave, we got any, I don't see anything else from the council. Anything from the public? Any questions?
Yes, we do. We have Paulette. Hold on, my screen just got obstructed here. Paulette Waith.
Okay, hi, Paulette.
Paulette, go ahead and unmute.
You're still muted, Paulette. There you go.
Hi, here I am.
Hello.
Hi, just saying hello. I'm so appreciative of all the hard work that everyone's putting in. I'm very new, very green, but I just wanted to say hello and thank you, Joe and Donna and all the names I cannot. I just want to thank the entire staff. I really appreciate what's happening and I'm very excited. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paulette.
Thank you, Paulette.
Anyone else, Dave?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, let's move on to item 5.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for engineering services in conjunction with the installation of a potable water well number 19 and well house.
All right. Joe, I hope you got some throat lozenges tonight.
Yes, I'm back again. Yeah, we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to talk about the potable water system. 3 proposals were received in our office on December 18, 2020 to provide design services for the installation of well number 19. The proposals, I just want to give you a little background on how we actually do the proposal process. We basically have a 6-member committee. On this committee specifically, we had our purchasing agent, our chief plant operator at the water treatment plant, the assistant engineer in this office, the assistant city manager, the city engineer, and the commissioner of public works were on the committee. When we review the proposals, they're all quality based. Basically, it's not cost based. So, we basically rate the proposals and then we all get together and essentially open the costs. So it's not supposed to be just based on the cost, it's based on the quality. In this case, however, the best proposer was also the lowest cost. Okay. So, and that happens to be H2M. They're a reputable firm. Again, they were the lowest cost and they had the best proposal. So therefore, we recommend awarding it the project in the amount of $131,000 to H2M. And I just want to give you a very quick background on, why this is so important right now. The city currently has 8 production wells. However, 3 of them right now are out of service. Well number 16, which is collapsed. Well number 17, which we're having some issue with chlorides right now, where it's getting high chloride readings. The limit is 250 milligrams per liter. When we turn on the pumps, we're getting readings of like 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams per liter. So that's out of service. And well number 11 is currently out of service, and it's not looking good right now. So therefore, we currently have 5 active production wells in the city. Number 9, which was built in 1949. Number 12, which is built in 1962. 13, 1965. 15, 2014. 16, well number 16, 1969, and well number 18, 2006. So that's just why it's very important that we award this project and get moving on the design of a new production well. Thank you.
All right, so this is the unsexy part of the city operations that no one sees, but when they open their tap, they sure want to get water out. Just one thing, and this is more of an FYI, but just confirm this, Joe. We get our water from a different aquifer than most of Nassau County. We come from a much deeper aquifer than the rest of Nassau, right? We're coming from the Lloyd Aquifer, which is much further down, about 1,200 feet, right?
That's exactly correct. All wells come from the Lloyd, which is a pristine source of water, but it's 1,200 feet deep. Exactly what you said.
And it's typically a much better source of water than the rest of Nassau County's pulling from.
Absolutely.
So so that's why this is also important. We got to make sure people got drinking water and bathing water and such. So, all right. Any comments or questions from the council? All right. Seeing none. Any from the public, Dave?
Yes, Roy Lester. Roy,
Oh.
go ahead.
Okay. Welcome back.
Thank you. Joe, how many wells do we actually need in the city minimum? I mean, at what point do we have to shut off water or shut off part of the
Generally,
water?
they need 2 active production wells to meet the demand. That's generally what they operate on. They always have generally, 2 running. They rotate them. So it's not.
Okay. But we have 4 in decent shape now.
We have 5 that are functioning.
Okay, but we're not counting 11, right?
I'm not counting 11. No, this is a new development, number 11, that we're having problems with now. For whatever reason, and we don't know why. When you turn the pump on, it'll run at like 800 gallons per minute to approximately 1,000 gallons per minute for about 5 minutes, and then over the next minute or 2, it drops down to 0.
But that's the one we just replaced.
That's where we thought there's a valve that they actually took out and replaced with a spool piece, thinking that they could that would solve the problem, but it did not.
And
so now,
what? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What if we do numbers 19? What is the actual, the drilling and everything, the pump, the whole project cost us?
Approximately 2.5 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else, Dave?
That was all.
Okay, let's move on to item 6.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for rehabilitation of the Long Beach bus garage and commuter parking facility.
Okay, we're going to switch gears again. Okay. We're going to go from potable water to the parking garage. On February 18th, 2021, we received 10 bids to rehabilitate the Long Beach bus garage and commuter parking facility. The low bidder was Carl Walker Construction Inc. at $729,285. This was well below the engineer's estimate of approximately $1 million, which we had budgeted in the capital budget. The consultant that undertook the design reviewed and the references and recommended them for the project. The project basically involves full replacement of the fire sprinkler dry standpipe system, concrete surface repairs, joint sealing, underpinning of the slabs, and repairs to the decorative brick facade. this facility was built in the early 90s by the Long Island Railroad and handed over to the city. And it just needs maintenance. It's time. So we had been planning this project for probably about the last 18 months. And it's probably a good time to take it because the garage isn't being used as frequently now. So there is going to be some issues with, we're going to have to close it for a couple of months. It's a 4-month project, which we'll talk about. But it's a good price and it's recommended by the consultant. So we'd like to get started. Thank you.
Okay. Joe, just for clarity, do you say the garage will have to be closed for a couple of months potentially?
Potentially, yes. We're going to work with the contractor. I mean, they're going to do the best they can, but there's definitely going to be instances where it has to be closed.
Okay. So while now, obviously, the garage is not being utilized anywhere near like it normally would be when people are back at the office, should this carry into a period where the garage starts filling up again? Used to be if you weren't there by the 8:08 train, that garage was packed. Are we coming up with any kind of parking contingency?
I have some suggestions. My first thought would be to relax the restrictions around Kennedy Plaza. Right now it's 2-hour parking and 20-minute parking, and they do mark tires and give some of these. I would suggest relaxing those restrictions for the duration of the project, which hopefully would accommodate the usage that's happening right now. Because it's right outside my window. I mean, it's definitely not operating at the capacity that it used to. That's just one thought. I'm open to suggestions, quite honestly.
All right, there might have to be some meetings just to
Yeah,
brainstorm on some contingencies there, so people also, maybe something with the buses too, make it easier for people to take the bus to the station, whatever. But that's for another conversation. All right, any of the other council members got questions? All right, Dave, anyone from the public?
Roy Lester.
Okay, welcome back again.
Hi, I was just, this is for Donna, I guess. I was trying to find these accounts in the budget. I guess they're not in the budget. It's an H number and we go FG and then V. So are they in the budget? Am I missing it?
H are the capital account budgets.
Yep.
So it's a separate budget.
Okay, all right, so it's not online. Okay, but what is,
It will be,
is?
Roy.
it will be, okay. But what is the difference between H1019 and H1021? They're both bus station rehabilitation. Why are they two different accounts?
Go ahead, Ina. I see you unmuted.
Okay, Roy, I will try to answer. This
It's
one,
not-
hopefully I can satisfy your inquiry. So every authorization, every bond authorization, it has to support our offering statement. And we probably should be putting offering statements on our website as well, and we will. Offering statements are what's being sent out to the investment companies when we are trying to sell our debt. So every single line of the offering statement has to be supported by the resolution. And then every single line of each offering statement is then translated into one of the H projects.
So it's just
So
two different,
H10,
it's two different fundings.
it's
Is that
from
what-
two different authorizations. Yes,
Okay,
that's
thanks.
correct.
That's all.
Mhm.
That explains it. Thank you, Ina.
Okay.
You see that, Ina? You got it way easy.
Well, it's not the end of the night yet.
All right. Anyone else, Dave?
Well, John Miranda has his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, just for further clarification on it, H1019, that was budgeted in 2019. We had budgeted $500,000 for the garage renovation, and then the engineering was done, and it turned out it was going to, they had estimated closer to $1 million. So in budget year 21, which is why it's 1021, we budgeted the additional funds.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else, Dave?
That was it.
Okay, let's move on to item 7.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the adoption of a police reform plan pursuant to New York State Executive Order 203 for the city of Long Beach.
All right, and I'm going to assume that's our police commissioner.
Yes.
I'm moving them up to the panel.
And there he is.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
Hi. So we did a lot of the discussing of the actual police reform last week, but as a brief introduction, as everybody knows, Governor Cuomo on June 12th of 2020 passed what was called Executive Order 203, which required police departments to start to look at police reform across the state. And as part of the police reform, it was in response to the police shootings in Minneapolis of George Floyd. The city had already put together a council or a commissioners police reform board consisting of 13 members of the public. Throughout the Long Beach community. I read all of their names last week. We had a variety of areas of focus. It's a very extensive plan that was put up on the city website 2 weeks ago. We have been receiving limited commentary from people even after last week's session where I thought I would get more. I only received one email from the public, and I responded to that gentleman in detail to all of his questions and his considerations. So we've been really working very hard to try and ensure that we are responsive here to all of the community's suggestions and questions. And some areas of focus that we had for our reform was a new use of force policy, a new mental aided or persons in having an emotional crisis policy, a new crowd control policy, a revamping of our vehicle pursuit policy, a new civilian complaint policy. And for the first time, people should know that we are tracking every civilian complaint that comes in, and they are all assigned a log number. It can never be deleted. So we will know to a person what complaints we actually have. We put out a duty to intercede, which is officers who observe any officer abusing any sort of their authority have a duty not only to intercede, but if they do not or are not able to intercede in the actual instance as it's going on, they have a duty to report. And we are developing a new hate crime policy as well. We have large areas of the reform document that are dedicated to recruitment and are trying to recruit more minority police officers, our promotions and our recognition of our officers as well, and detailing out those processes in the document. We also dealt with areas such as procedural justice, which is being fair in our process, transparent in our actions, and providing opportunities for voice and impartial decision-making, a voice of the public when the police are called to the scene, implicit bias training and our racial justice in policing, hate crime training and the new department policy that's in the development, de-escalation training, and how our officers are being trained to de-escalate and using their verbal tactics, active listening, ensuring that they are impartial, permitting officers to tactically reposition themselves in situations where the law does not even require us to quote unquote back down. We are really dedicating a lot of this police reform into developing our community-oriented and problem-solving policing, as well as our hotspot policing. I've been attending a lot of meetings, Zoom meetings right now, but attending a lot of meetings in the city, the East End, school meetings, West End Civic Association meetings, talking to the residents. And as issues are coming up or people are emailing their concerns, we are very quickly putting our officers and our resources into action to try and be responsive to those concerns. These are most of the things that we've covered. We will be establishing shortly a Commissioners Young Adult Council. We will also be formulating a Commissioners Community Council here. We're going to be working towards establishing a law enforcement exploring post here for our youth in the community. A lot of initiatives in the plan itself. I don't want to go through the entire plan here tonight. I really would like to open it up for any questions that the public may have or further clarifications. You're muted, John.
Yep, just realized that. Okay, so are there any questions from any of the council members? All right, seeing none. Dave, any from the public?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, we
wait,
had what?
Kathleen O'Leary.
Oh, okay. There she is. Hi, Kathleen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to say, the Long Beach police are just fantastic. I mean, they have always been there in 2 seconds and de-escalating situations. I think these changes are only improvements on a very excellent department to begin with. And I believe that neither Suffolk County nor Nassau County has effectively put in a civilian complaint review board. So I think we're ahead of the game with both the counties. And, you know, I congratulate you with all the great efforts you're making.
Thank you very much for your support, and we try, and the focus now is really to ensure that this department is focused on customer service for every single person who lives in this city. We want to make sure that you're getting the service that you really want out of your police department.
Yep.
All right. Anything else, Kathleen?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
And it's also worth noting too that this is a living document. This isn't static. You know, once if this passes, it's reviewed regularly and updated as we learn lessons and conditions change.
Yeah. So just to comment on that, President Bendo, that was one of the things I wanted to make sure that everyone understood, and I thank you for reminding me of it. Nothing in this document, everything should be considered that we're going to do our best efforts to it, not only go through it and do it, but if the public or if the community comes up with something that, hey, you know, this isn't really working the way we designed it or the way we wanted it, what about we try X, Y, or Z? We'll take that back and we'll work it, and we'll see if we can actually incorporate into that, into not only the plan, but more importantly, what our results are, what we're actually doing. Because the level of responsiveness that we have with our public and building the relationships and building resiliency in our relationships, I really, really want the public that feel disenfranchised or feel as if the police department hasn't been responsive to them, to gain that feeling of trust with us and to know that we're here for them. And whether there have been mistakes made in the past, I'm not living life in the rearview mirror. We're moving forward in a positive way. And if we make a mistake now, I trust me, we will own it. We will let you know about it, and we will move forward to correct it. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions again from the council? Okay, and I'm going to one last time on the public, Dave. Anyone else?
Roy Lester.
Okay, welcome back.
Hello. Ron, just on there was a question the other day about the cost of the body cams. And, you know, Newsday did the whole thing, and I was looking into it. And can you just explain a little, because it seems body cams are cheap, but running them is like super expensive. Can
So-
you just go through that
Sure.
for a second? And by the
Sure.
way, I love the way the bed cover matches the curtains. I wish my room looked that nice. Go ahead.
So anyway, yes, I came home tonight for the meeting. So anyway, please excuse if there's any mess behind me. I'm in the process of moving. There's boxes all over my house.
That's why I don't turn on my camera.
So transparency, Roy, transparency. So body cameras, it's a rather complex thing. You can try to simplify it if you want, but there's no real simple way to talk about it. You know, if you try to encapsulate the cost for the city, the camera itself is not the expense. It's the storage of the data and then figuring out how many people we're going to need to manage this. So if you can imagine an officer, you know, the question would be asked, well, how much time or how much footage will you have for one police officer in a 20 or one postcard, if you will, in a 24-hour period? It's very difficult to estimate that, because in the wintertime, it's going to be much less than in the summertime, because chances are that they're not involved in nearly as much. And then it depends on policy. So I don't really think, I wouldn't pass a policy where my officers sitting in their patrol car, driving around or on break, they have to have their camera on, because that's sort of what they're doing in their time. I would like to see a policy, if you're on an assignment, if you're interacting with the public, things of that nature, then you turn your camera on, because anything can happen at any moment. If something were to happen, it's going to be the officer's responsibility to turn the camera on. And most of the cameras have a 30-second buffer in them. So they have 30 seconds, which can be an eternity in some very stressful situations, where they turn it on and the camera automatically starts from 30 seconds ago in the past and moves forward that way. So that's a consideration. But really, if you think about it, try and imagine this way. You have an interaction with a police officer, that interaction gets caught on camera, and now somebody foils, hey, I want to know what everything that Ron Walsh did on this particular day. Your personal interaction with a police officer needs to be redacted, because you may have talked about some very private or personal things in that interaction. So there's a lot of work that has to go into actually being able to produce these things. I don't think that we would provide, I don't believe that we would have to provide, I should say, I don't know enough about it to be honest with you, because we haven't had the request yet. But if someone said, I want to see everything this officer did in a day, I don't know that we would necessarily have to provide that level. It might be too broad. However, certainly somebody who is involved in a situation, or a situation that is of public interest, we're going to have to provide data and situation. If it turns out to be, let's say, a domestic incident, I like to bring that out. So now we're in someone's home, and it's a very personal thing that the police department is now involved in. And the management of this takes hours to figure out what's going to be allowed to be let out into the public or not. And that gets multiplied by every officer on every call every day. And if we have, let's say it's a summer evening on a Friday night, we have 9 or 10 officers working on that particular night. You take all of that data and you have to manage all of that for people who may or may not be requesting for the information. It becomes very complex. My initial look at this, and it's not scientifically based right now, is that we're going to need at least one full-time person just to manage this, maybe more, maybe 1.5 full-time equivalents to manage it. That is an expense to the city. It can't be someone who's unsworn necessarily, because of the sensitivity of the information and the privacy. So there are a lot of considerations. It's not something that's not able to be figured out, of course. We can figure it out, and we will figure it out. And I believe that with the other thing is, you do have the consideration for the collective bargaining agreement, right? You have the PBA, who has the right to negotiate how this gets implemented. So they have that right. The city is interested in doing this. The public is interested in having it. So now, and those negotiations, those discussions, I should say, have been introduced. It's not something that's quick. I mean, we just had to go through an interest arbitration that only brought us to 2017 from 2015. So we haven't had a contract with our PBA since 2015, because negotiations get bogged down and are difficult. All of these things, and I don't want to say right now that we're not having fruitful discussions, because we absolutely are starting to move in the direction towards a fruitful negotiation. And the PBA, in my opinion, has been very cooperative at this point, as has the Commanding Officers Association. And I hold out good hope that all of these issues can get worked out. But it is by no means finished, and it is not something that's going to happen by July for the body-worn cameras. I have already had discussions with vendors about it, but to really put your hand around a cost, I mean, if we have we have 8 or 10 instances or incidents that are long duration. For instance, if we had a Sandy, and now we want to videotape everything about Sandy, and you're doing that for months at a time, the expense for that video would be tremendous on the city long term, because it's not terabytes, it's dozens of terabytes in a week, because it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of video for everyone who's on a patrol working. So yeah, as much as I am interested, I want to make sure that the people understand that it takes time, it takes effort, and we're going to keep continuing to work on it until we figure it out.
Come on, Ron, say it. Aren't lawyers wonderful?
You're the best, Roy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else, Dave?
Nope, that was all.
Okay, so let's move on to item 8.
Okay, item 8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Lawrence Cedarhurst Fire Department for the performance of fire alarm dispatching services.
All right, I'm gonna guess that's Fire Commissioner Mirando.
Yes, and Rich Burials.
Okay, I guess I'll start. Our fire dispatch office, in addition to dispatching for Long Beach, dispatches for 4 other fire departments. We have contracts for dispatching services with each one of them. In addition, we are the backup for the Oceanside, Rockville Center, and Freeport fire departments. And just in the reverse, Oceanside Dispatch Center is our backup. So our contract with Lawrence Cedarhurst expired. We've negotiated a new 5-year contract with them. I have to thank Rich Barrios and Scott Kemmons, the former commissioner who worked on this. This is a 5-year contract starting January 1, 2021 to December. Will be $19,024 that they pay to us, and will stay the same for 2022. And then from 23 to 25, we'll increase 1% each year. We dispatch about 1,400 calls a year for Lawrence Cedarhurst. And it really doesn't cost us any more to do this. We have all the equipment, and it's the same dispatchers that we use, so we're not bringing anybody additional in. That's really my portion of it.
Thanks. And you got anything, Rich, or did John cover it all?
I think you hit all the highlights. The grand total for the entire life of the contract is $96,322.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. And this has already been approved by Lawrence Cedarhurst's board.
All right. Any questions from the council members? Seeing none. Any from the public, Dave?
Yes, Roy Lester.
Okay.
Just a quick comment. I've noticed this in a lot of our contracts where we do things for other people. We raise it below the cost of living raises. I mean, this is about 0.5% increase each year, and cost of living is almost 2%. So I just wish when we negotiate, we could ask for, a decent increase. When I say decent, even a 1% or something like that. But it's done, so maybe in the future.
If I just could comment on that, Roy.
Yes.
We have much better contracts with the other departments. One of the reasons we have a much lower contract and a lower increase for Lawrence Cedarhurst is when we first rebuilt the dispatch center, Lawrence Cedarhurst paid for much of the equipment that went in there.
That's right.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, thanks.
And the CPI for January 21 versus January 2020 was 1.4%, not 2%.
Okay, and we're charging 0.5% or 0.6%.
Yeah, we're charging 1% increase.
Okay.
Thanks, Commissioner.
All right. Thanks. All right, Dave, anyone else?
Nope, that was all.
Okay, why don't we move on to item 9?
Item 9 is resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the Long Beach Professional Firefighters Association.
All right.
That would be Mr. Barrios, and I think Mr. Pinto is on.
That's right. And Commissioner Miranda as well. So as you know, and those who don't know, the fire department here in Long Beach is a combination fire department composed of a volunteer contingent and a paid contingent. The members of the paid contingent are represented by a union. And what I was charged to do with my committee, the committee was myself, Ina, and Commissioner Miranda. We basically sat at the table with representatives from the firefighters union to negotiate this memorandum of agreement. Little history on bargaining. They are currently under an expired contract, but by virtue of the Taylor Law, that contract's terms and conditions continue until they reach new terms and conditions, or as was referenced by Commissioner Walsh, an interest arbitration kind of gives them new terms and conditions. So proposals were initially exchanged, I guess, generally back in October. There was some back and forth there, but as for this particular memorandum of agreement, we tried to limit it to new hires, partially because it's a crucial first step in kind of figuring out the big picture. Another reason being that some of the recent retirees in the department, we lost about four firefighters over the course of the last 2 years, at least 4, I believe. So we sat down, rolled up our sleeves, got to the table, and came up with this MOA. And not to belabor it, I will put something up on the screen, so maybe it'll be of use to you folks. But I'll start to go through it in a moment. So some of the basic highlights are this. With this MOA, it basically references new hires for the most part, but there are some implications for current firefighters. You have a 50% reduction in personal time accruals, reduced sick leave entitlements, reduced vacation caps for new hires, terminal leave. A lot of the different provisions with regard to terminal leave and separation payouts are figured out here. So with regard to concern on separation payments, all new hires are capped at $175,000, regardless of how much time they have in the bank. One good thing is that for all current and new employees, the new hires, excuse me, the separation payouts are paid out over 5 years. So whatever need we had to bond previously is pretty much ameliorated by this, because we can properly plan and budget for it. Now let me see if I can get this up here. Does it work? I hope I share the right screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Scrolling up and down.
Yep.
So what I outline on these bullet points, or these bullets, are some of the comparisons, generally speaking. I'll scroll down slowly, but like I said, 50% reduction in personal time accruals. That would be 30 hours a year versus the 60 hours under the current contract. You'll see the reductions in sick leave entitlements. There are certain, there's a reduced payout on sick leave as well as a minimum requirement of service. Scroll down a little bit more. Terminal leave has also been reduced pretty dramatically. Holidays, we got Juneteenth in there. So they joined the celebrated bargaining units who have kind of, come into that circle, which is great. There's a graded salary plan in this MOA, which basically reduced salaries across every single title substantially. And there's also an extension incentive inside the MOA that basically allows certain firefighters who are nearing retirement to not get penalized by getting blindsided by this MOA, essentially, because some of these provisions actually reduce their eligibility for certain separation payments. So there is a little bit of a grace period we put in there to allow them to go. And by way of reference, I think just roughly crunching the numbers, the average number of years of service for a firefighter in the department is about 17 years. So we're really just trying to plan ahead with regard to those leaving and getting a sustainable amount of, bodies to actually work and not run into overtime issues and trouble. That's basically the presentation. I think hit all the points I need to hit. If you have any questions, just let me know. And I'll scroll up and down as you need for the bullet points. But thank you so much to the members of the committee, the members of the firefighters union for sitting at the table. One big thing, actually, I just forgot. So this entire process was done in-house. We didn't go out to outside counsel. We didn't spend extra money. The goal here was to try to save the taxpayers some dollars. And I think we did a pretty good job at that. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay. I see Sam's on. Is Sam going to say?
Yes, if Sam's on, jump on in.
Hey everyone, how's my audio? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good.
So yeah, just to follow up a little bit on what Rich said, this was a collaborative effort between the city and the union to really just try to follow the model of what we need to provide fire protection for the community, and also save money because, as we know, that the current climate is tough. Financial markets are hard, and we've had some reports and there's trending for trying to improve service at lower costs. So what we did here was exactly that. We got the opportunity to put some new hires into the fire academy, and they're going to be working at a much lower salary line. Some of the salaries that we're dealing with are actually reduced by 10 to 15 to 20% from year to year, based from the old contract. So there's significant concessions on the salaries. We also brought in a few parts of the current employees too to reduce the costs and incentivize maintaining a good workforce. So Rich hit most of the big points. We worked together on this. He brought up the point that I enjoy working with the city, keeping things in-house. We're not fans of going to arbitration or dealing with outside counsel, really. It's a frustrating and expensive process. And we were able to work together on this and provide fire protection for a lower cost and a more affordable model. And it's a great step forward in working out the details for future public safety. That's mostly
That's
it,
great.
unless you guys have some questions for me.
Yeah. Oh, Sam, what we didn't mention also built-in healthcare contributions.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't hit that one, but like Sam referenced, this is the first step in a bigger discussion, and I think there's still a lot more work to do.
So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that was on the team. I know when we first started talking about let's do as much as we can in-house to save money on outside lawyers, you all kind of looked at me like I was crazy, but look at what we can do when we all put our minds to it. So I wanted to say good job, everyone. We do have a contract that we will start negotiating right after we get the budget done, and we'll move forward and we'll take the same approach as we did before, that we will sit down at the table together. And so everybody knows that, yes, we go back and forth, but we negotiate. And this is what happens when you can sit down and negotiate. So we're not spending additional legal fees unless it's absolutely necessary. And right now it wasn't necessary. So thanks again to the team.
Donna, I want to thank Rich, yourself, everybody, Commissioner Mirando, everybody involved with this whole negotiation process, and Sam Pinto. And it shows the commitment to Long Beach from all parties. And I really, my hat's off to you all.
Yeah, hopefully we're laying the groundwork here for how we can work with our collective bargaining units in a much more or in a very collaborative manner when it comes to negotiating, that we don't have to bring outside lawyers in and everyone's jockeying for position and such. This was a great example of how we can work together for the greater good of everyone. And I think one thing that I think was kind of left out here too, one thing to be worth noting is once these new firefighters are put into the rotation, right now we have our most highest paid firefighters working significant amounts of overtime because they are so short-staffed, and now they'll go back to a more normal rotation, and we'll now have people at a more in the lower salaries that will be filling the time that's now being taken by the senior people at very high salaries. So we should see some savings there.
Don, I just want to say thank you again to the council and to Donna and to the whole team on the city side for working with us. And just to reiterate your point on that, not only are we just basically replacing higher cost employees with lower cost employees, these new lower cost employees, they're less expensive for being at lower salary steps, but they're less expensive because we work together to really offer a full-time equivalent that's going to be less expensive. And this is a much more sustainable model. And, just to bring up the financial restructuring board brought up some ideas regarding the fire department and the average salaries for everyone. And what we did here is we followed a lot of their recommendations. They said, offer a delivery model that's affordable. And this is the first step. It's a huge step for that, to really follow their advice and guidance and offset some of the costs while not compromising safety. So I thank everyone for working on it with us.
Yeah.
And can Sam or Rich talk about this? There's one item that I found really impressive amongst everything, but I just wanted to note it. It says here that paramedic certification shall be a prerequisite to be promoted to an officer. It's really interested how that came about, and appreciative, and well done.
Yeah, I think Sam and I were kind of on the same page on this. Essentially, you want the highest trained firefighter to become an officer. You want someone who knows not just the fire scene, but also the medical scene. Sam, you can elaborate a little bit more on that if you'd like.
Sure. So that was Karen. Thanks for recognizing that. That was one of my ideas.
Well, I didn't.
No, I'm only kidding.
Forget it.
No, just so you know, in the whole concept of the positions, what we really wanted to do was make sure that there's a good, well-rounded employee that's affordable. So one of the things is that we actually put a cap on salary increases. So if a person isn't interested in becoming a paramedic, they're not going to reach top salary. On top of that, that if you have to become an officer and supervise and be part of scenes, we want to continue that person is a well-rounded employee. I'll give you just a little bit of reference. Back in the, I think, 80s or early 90s, we started being one of the first ALS providing agencies in Long Island. Our firefighters became critical care technicians, which is similar to a paramedic, has a little bit less training, but a lot of the local protocols are similar. So at that point, we became the top critical care technicians at the time. Critical care technicians now are actually being phased out, and everyone's either becoming an EMT basic or a paramedic. So we integrated that into this agreement where we're phasing out the critical care technician and reiterating our support for high quality paramedic service with the firefighters for the public by including this provision here. Just so you know, the Nassau County Ambulance Bureau, their police medics are either critical cares or paramedics as well. So we're maintaining the same level of standard with them. But yeah, that's a big, I'll tell you, there's a lot of little nuances in this agreement that really promote operations and not just finances. It's a nice combination of operational efficiency and cost savings. So I'm happy to be part of this this team effort that we did to get this done.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the council? All right. Seeing none. Dave, who do we got from the public?
Our first speaker is Kevin Heller.
All right. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, thank you. I've got a few comments or areas of inquiry, so if I can get them all out at once to stay within my time limit, that would be appreciated.
Sure, go ahead.
My first question I had planned to ask is where can the public review this memorandum of agreement? Now, I know earlier in the meeting, Ms. Gaydon mentioned the transparency portal, so I guess instead of asking, I would comment that would have been nice to have had that prior to this discussion, and I hope going forward, we'll commit to putting up important documents on the transparency portal before they're discussed. I guess since it's being discussed here, you did outline some key terms, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Berrios. I'm just curious if the memorandum of agreement will include a no layoff clause? Will it include a minimum staffing agreement? And then just on the hires themselves, I'm curious, the last I recall, we were in a hiring freeze. There seemed to have been through a pandemic, a substantial layoff of the workforce. I don't know if that situation has changed. And if so, how have any of the previously laid off employees been hired back? So I'm just curious about the timing and why are the hires necessary at this time in light of the financial situation. I know you just mentioned we lost 4 firefighters over the last 2 years, but then I also wonder on your economic analysis, when you take in not just the new salary schedule, but also, the benefits package, is that actually a cost savings when you compare it to, normal overtime schedule that the current, firefighters would have? And then the last area I wanted to sort of inquire about was, there's a clause in your resolution that says, and I quote, "such other terms and conditions as the city manager shall deem proper." And I'm just curious, is the memorandum of agreement sort of complete? Has the council reviewed it in its entirety? I would think that the council would want to review and approve specific items. No disrespect meant to Ms. Gaydon. And I guess, again, it's a point of emphasis. Shouldn't the public have the opportunity to review and comment on the entirety of the agreement in a forum such as this? That's what I have for you. Thank you.
Okay, Rich, you want to respond to why it wasn't posted, or do you want me to respond?
Well, so the document's not final yet, right? And this actually ties in, Mr. Heller, to your other question about the last resolve clause. So other terms and conditions, right? This is a collective bargaining process. So essentially, it's not a final agreement until the council votes on it, and until the union, the union signs it, right? So there's a little bit of back and forth on that, and so it wasn't a final document. It wasn't ready. We did share it with the council, and that, I guess, that explains that portion of it. As to the timing, you mentioned timing and why now. Well, we just came up against the fire academy over in Westchester County starting now, so this was the opportune time to kind of get people into the academy. And with regard to, I guess, the cost of it, I mean, as President Bendo mentioned, there's currently a pretty big cost to the city in overtime with the firefighters as they currently exist, right? With lower staffing, that means more overtime because less people can cover shifts. So this was kind of an effort to kind of ameliorate that and bring it back to a level that's sustainable. Back to you, Donna, if you had anything for that to elaborate on.
Yeah, when I first got here and COVID broke out, we did a hiring freeze that had been lifted. There were several people laid off. I think the entire rec center was laid off because we had to close the rec center except for a couple of key people. I've been working with the union, with Mr. Mooney, and we've been working with civil service. And the people that we have laid off, what I made a commitment to was that when people either terminated, left on their own, retired, the first people we would offer jobs to were people that were on the layoff list, and they came in a pecking order. And so a lot of those people that wanted to come back are back. And that still has been the commitment, that where we need to bring in people into positions, but you have to be aware that we put people that are qualified into positions that they're qualified to do, not just because. And so we have been very successful, and the people that wanted to come back are coming back. And I think there are a few more people on the list. So the layoffs, the big layoff was when COVID hit. And the largest amount of people, which I want everybody to understand, came from the rec center because the rec center had to be closed down. There were other people that retired. There were layoffs in a few other departments, but we have been moving forward on that. Does that answer your question on the layoffs, Mr. Heller?
You're muted, Kevin,
You're muted.
if you're trying to talk.
Yeah, well, I think Dave just gave me the unmute.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that answers my question. I guess, I'm just brainstorming here. I wonder, for people that weren't able to be offered their specific jobs back, is there any opportunity for cross-training at a different department, et cetera? Meaning, maybe the rec isn't fully back yet, but there's a sanitation position open. And if someone was willing to do that, could they be offered that?
Yeah, the union works that out. So what
Yeah.
I will say that there were some people that were in the rec that are in sanitation now.
Oh, fantastic.
Wherever the opening comes. And then we're not going to turn you down. If you say, yes, I would be willing to come back, there's a training component to that. And it's to get those people back to work.
Yeah. I guess just the area of inquiry that is really kind of a financial concern, right? Is, Ms. Reznik earlier tonight expressed concerns about a potential revenue shortfall. And I understand you explained that if we were going to hire a few folks on the fire department, we needed to do it before there was training. But I guess the question is, in light of the financial crunch that we're in, was it you guys determined that it was completely necessary?
Well, when you look at first responders and you look at their contract, what they're required, the number of people that they were required to have,
Yeah.
and what nobody has brought to attention, we were not complying with the contract. We were already short. So that's one reason why we went ahead and hired the people. The second, because the contract called for so many and we were 3 short. Also, when you look at first responders and you look at how much overtime they put in, you can burn them out. And so we don't want people going out sick, going out for any reason because we, 1, didn't comply with the contract, 2, we burnt them out, their first responders, because more people go out, overtime goes up. So when we look at everything, and Ina does a very good job of it, I will say, being the comptroller, when we look at bringing people in, believe me, we cost everything out every which way to make sure that we are being very prudent in what we're doing and spending money.
Okay.
If you weren't aware that that's why I was brought here as a contract, was to look at how the city spends money and the best way to move the city forward. Everybody's not going to agree with us on what we're doing, but we are looking out for the best for the city, how to move it forward and put it in a position that it can bounce back within the next 4 to 5 years. So all that's taken into consideration, and I thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your questions.
All right, have a good night. And anyone else, Dave?
Yes, Roy Lester.
Okay, welcome back.
Hello. Donna, I have to applaud you for what you said about putting the contracts on. And I echo Kevin's concern that this was, Rich was able to prepare bullet notes. So we have something. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of tough to ask questions about something you've never seen. And you really don't know what it is until maybe a few minutes before, and then it's only bullet points about it. But what I'm not sure about, is it a final document or not? I mean,
No,
Rich said it's not.
It's not final until the council votes on it and then it's signed. That's when it becomes final. And anything that's on the website under the transparency portal will be final documents. This is still considered a working document until it's voted on. That's why it's not out there. Rich and I did talk about whether in the future we can put out something with bullet points so people can see what the bullet points are, but we will not put out anything that's not final.
So, but if you're asking us to comment, yes, if you're asking us to comment on something and we don't get to see it, how can we comment on it?
Well, Roy, you'll have to comment on the bullet points. We cannot put out something that is not final, that is a contract that the council has not voted on.
And to Mr. Lester, to Donna's point, what we're trying to do now, at least on my end, when I have presentations like this, I plan on at least preparing bullet points in advance and perhaps circulating it beforehand, or at the very least sharing it during the presentation, so that way you can, you have some information to ask questions, right? That's the goal.
That's the goal, but from somebody in my position, I'm trying to understand this beforehand, and it's really tough without anything. I mean, you did have some bullet points that were flashed across the screen, but whatever. The question is,
We're trying to do better. And
I know you are. You're doing a great job that way. You know,
Thank
the
you.
whole
I mean, we're
portal
trying to
thing
do better,
is going to
but
be great.
I still have to comply with the, so, but thank you.
Does that mean last year we had, we budgeted $550,000, 550,000, yeah, for overtime. Is that going to disappear in this year's budget?
Overtime never disappears in budgets when it comes to first responders. We can be more realistic about our overtime, and it might reduce. It should reduce because we have more bodies. But overtime never is reduced to zero in any first responders budget.
Yeah, I can understand that, but 550,
No, it was reduced because we have bodies. When it was done when it was done this year, we didn't have the bodies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Roy.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anyone else, Dave?
That was all.
All right. Let's move on to item 10.
Item 10 is a resolution designating a city council member to serve on the Board of Fire Commissioners.
Oh, I thought you were going
I can take it if you want.
So on the, we've been filling the boards and boards of fire, boards and commissions. And Councilmember Delory has been asked and has said so gracefully that he would serve on the Fire Commission's board. And so this is just a resolution appointing him from the council to serve on the board.
He's been practicing with his Hess trucks.
I've been practicing, I've been meeting, and I thank all the members of the council, Donna, for giving me the opportunity as well. And to report back to my fellow council members on items that may be a concern.
Okay. Any questions on this from the council? All right, Dave, any from the public?
Yes, Kevin Heller.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Heller.
Oh, yeah, just really curious if this is filling a position that was vacant.
It's filling the council's position that was vacant.
It's been vacant. Okay, thank you.
It's just for the council member.
Perfect. Appreciate
So,
it.
Mr. Heller, there's always one, I guess, designated council member as part of the Board of Commissioners. So we're just filling that vacancy.
But there hasn't been one recently. It was.
Right. No, you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay.
Mr.
Anyone else?
Heller, if you've noticed, there hasn't been any boards and commissions, and now they're all being completed. We're working on them several. We have a couple of more to go, but we're getting back to business.
Yeah, I recognize it. It's not always easy to get people to volunteer for commissions. So yes.
No, I mean, and I'll just say, Don, I actually had the time to count it up today. We have 76 residents that are engaged in various boards and commissions in the city since you began the interviewing process. So
I was just hoping we could, during a working session soon, could just hear even 5 minutes from, some of those boards and commissions. Just say, hey, we've met twice. I'm the chair or whatever. This is what we're working on.
We will talk to them. We will talk to them and see if they can come on. And I would say probably May or June after we do our budget season, so they can say what they've been working on.
That would be great.
It's a good idea, Karen. Thank you. That's good.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else, Dave?
Oh, that was all.
All right. Let's move on to item 11.
Item 11 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
That would be Ina. The next 11 and 12 are both Ina.
If you want, I could take this one, if you don't mind.
That will help if I'll unmute myself. So this is Ina, and I'm not sure if Joe is still on.
But Joe's on.
Okay. So basically, Joe needed money in water purification contracted services and also water purification chemicals. We've budgeted about $39,000 as a contingency. in a water fund. And we're transferring this money now to, or asking the council to approve this transfer now. So Joe can go ahead and do whatever he needs to do with it. And he's going to tell you what he needs to do with it in a minute.
Yes, the $10,000 transfer from the contingency fund to the contracted services line is for two things. One is for TV inspection of well number 11 by AC Schultes. We had received two quotes, and that was the lowest quote. The price is $5,180. I mentioned previously during our presentation that well number 11 is currently experiencing problems, and we do not know what the problem is. You know, when you turn on the pump, it begins pumping for up to 800 gallons per minute, and then just goes down to zero. So we're going to do a TV inspection of that well with this money. And the other thing that we needed the money funding for that we are transferring is the annual water quality report that we mentioned earlier. H2M is going to be preparing the report on behalf of the city for a price of $5,750. They will be preparing the annual water supply report and also doing the virtual forum probably later in June or early July that I discussed earlier. As far as the other $10,000 that we're transferring to the chemicals line of the water treatment plant, it's basically for a projected shortfall in the chemical called alum. Last year, apparently, they were budgeted $105,000, and this year they were budgeted $95,000. So that $10,000 shortfall is coming to fruition, and that's what the money is needed for.
All right, any questions from the council members? Yeah, actually I have one. So at the last meeting, the March 2nd meeting, we approved money for water purification chemicals. So this 10,000, this is on top of what we authorized last week, or this is different, or?
This is a projected shortfall
Okay.
that they apparently need for their alum.
Okay. That's what coagulates the iron, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we need to do that. Okay. Any other comments or questions from the council? All right. Any from the public, Dave?
Nope, none at this time.
All right. Then let's move on to item 12.
Item 12 is also a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
Okay, so this is actually multi-line transfer resolution. It's for the general fund, and it encompasses a lot of different needs in different areas. I will talk about the ones that I'm aware of, and I can reasonably well explain. As far as the corporate counsel consultants and the snow removal over time, maybe we'll defer to the experts in this areas. So we need more money in the fiscal agent fees bond notes issue. It really had, there are two reasons that we need more money than was budgeted. One of that has to do with the fact that we didn't do as much financing in fiscal 2020. So a lot of it was pushed towards 2021. As a matter of fact, in 2020, expense in this line came up about $30,000 less than budgeted. Another reason would be the fact that Haberman case really had put a spin on the borrowing. We just borrowed in February, sold about over $18 million worth of notes. We refinanced our deficiency note of 4.25% with a much better interest rate, but because of the Haberman case looming, that involved a lot of discussions with our financial advisor, our bond counsel, and as well as the rating agencies. So a lot of work went into that, and as a result, actually, we were able to get excellent rates on the notes that we issued in February. We had hired a deputy controller. She started March 1st. I hope that with her joining the department, I will be able to realize the vision for the department and for the fiscal controls for the city. Yeah. And then for that, we needed between now and the end of the year, we need to fund it by $20,000 there. Rich, would you be able to talk about the corporate counsel consultants?
Sure. Essentially, well, not essentially, what happened is we had the Haberman trial. Haberman trial ate into a huge chunk of our consultant line early on in the fiscal year. We hired a number of experts, outside counsel and the like, and we all know how it turned out. But the cost of actually litigating that was the cost of litigating it. We also had a couple of mitigating factors where we had our former corporation counsel leave, and we had to send some things out to outside counsel in order to manage the workload a little better. It's just a result of the shuffle and having to send things out to outside counsel combined with the Haberman litigation that we need to basically get a little infusion so that way we make it through the fiscal year. That's all I got.
Okay, that's all. I was gonna say, anything else?
No, just need the money.
All right.
Okay, so then I'm gonna continue. We need to move money to the city controller contracted services. City's been having material weaknesses reported by the city auditors for the last many years. As a matter of fact, it's number one comment. So it's capital projects material weakness, and we need to fund the line for the consultant to finish up and wrap up this project of reconciling all old pre-2007 capital projects. It's really a big issue, and it will involve movement of funds from one fund to another. What happened, capital budgets were not properly managed, and because they were not properly managed, funds that should have won, for example, from the sewer fund to pay for the debt service were instead drawn from the general fund and vice versa. And it's thousands of lines and columns, very voluminous analysis, and that's something that we hope will be completed in the next couple of months. It's nearing its completion. As a result of that completion, we'll actually be coming to the city council with the resolutions to move funds where they belong. So it's really finding the place for and doing full reconciliation of the old pre-2007 capital projects. And then I don't know if Tommy is on, but everybody remembers the snow, so we need to fund the overtime. $89,664.
I don't believe outside of Joe or John Miranda, we have anybody from street maintenance or central maintenance.
Well, what I can speak on it, what we did was we made sure that we were ready as they were telling us and predicting how much snow we were getting. And so we took a different approach on making sure the streets were clean, salted, and then the trucks went out. The guys, they worked several hours, slept maybe 3 or 4 hours and got back out to make sure that the city streets were clean. Of course, we have more snow than anticipated, I think, when we did the budget, because it is my understanding the last few years you haven't gotten that much snow. And so now things will be done a little differently, but I think they did an excellent job in snow removal, considering the amount of snow that we received. And then I want to thank all of the residents who sent comments and called and said that they felt that the guys were doing a great job, and I made sure I passed that on to them.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. That concludes that transfer resolution. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Are there any questions from the council members? All right, seeing none. Dave, any from the public?
Yes, Roy Lester.
Okay.
What did Haberman cost us just from the inquest on?
Reach.
Right now we paid a lot of it off already, Roy. What I have right now outstanding.
No, I'm just looking at the total cost, not what we still.
I don't have the total on me. I'm sorry. I know we paid probably 90,000. I don't want to guess. I'll look. I think it's at least $90,000. And we have outstanding bills of about 47,000. So I just don't want to speculate on the 90 because I'm not 100% sure. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
No problem.
Roy, that's the answer that we will get, and then we will, at the next council meeting, like we do always, we will give the answer. We can give the answer to your question at the next council meeting.
Thank you.
All right, Dave, anyone else?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, let's move on to item 13.
Okay, item 13 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding city physician and health officer. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held April 6th at 7 p.m. Item 14 is a resolution authorizing publication of hearing of an ordinance to amend the code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach regarding police surgeon and city physician. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held April 6th at 7 p.m. And item 15 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 58A East Park Avenue for an online apparel business. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held April 6th at 7 p.m. On to the voting portion. Going back to item 2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a modification agreement for the flood protection for major critical infrastructure project for the city of Long Beach. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston. Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing budget amendment to the capital fund budget. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I
I
will.
will. Councilman Treston.
Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
And item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into 2 agreements with general construction services and electrical construction services for the Long Beach Drainage Improvements Project. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Looking forward to this project. Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for engineering services in conjunction with the installation of a potable water well number 19 and well house. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second.
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for rehabilitation of the Long Beach Bus Garage and the commuter parking facility. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
yes,
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the adoption of a police reform plan pursuant to New York State Executive Order 203 for the city of Long Beach. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes,
President Bendo.
Again, I just want to thank the staff for all their hard work and the residents that took part in this process as well. Yes.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Lawrence Cedarhurst Fire Department and, for the performance of fire alarm dispatching services. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
yes,
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 9 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the Long Beach Professional Firefighters Association. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will. Oh, go ahead, Liz.
Please? Okay. Second?
I will.
Okay. Voting. Councilmember Delory.
Thank you to all the parties involved in this agreement. I vote yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Who would like to thank everyone from the union and from our own city council. With it OU. I vote yes. Thank you.
Vice President McGinnis.
excellent, excellent work. Yes,
President Bendo.
Yes.
And item 10 is a resolution designating a city council member to serve on the Board of Fire Commissioners. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delory.
I have to recuse myself.
You'll have to abstain. It's a little too late to recuse.
Abstain.
Okay. Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes,
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, item 11 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
yes,
President Bendo.
Yes.
And item 12 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes,
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 13 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding city physician and health officer. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
Oh, I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
yes,
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 14 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding police surgeon and city physician. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting. Councilmember Delory.
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel.
Yes.
Councilmember Treston. Councilmember Treston.
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis.
Yes,
President Bendo.
Yes.
And finally, item 15 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 58A East Park Avenue for an online apparel business. Won't you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
We'll make a motion to close the meeting.
I will.
Second,
I will.
voting, Councilmember Delory,
Yes.
thank you. Councilmember Mandel,
Yes.
Councilmember Treston,
Yes.
Vice President McGinnis,
Yes.
and President Bendo.
Yes. Okay, so on to good and welfare. So you have 3 minutes to make comments.
Folks, use the
And
raise your hand function.
use the raise your hand function. And who do we have
Folks,
first?
when you hear the, when you get to your 3 minutes, you'll hear me playing the alarm in the background. So if you hear that beep, beep, beep in the background, that means your 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
So first up, we have Kevin Heller.
Okay.
First, I apologize. I threw a lot of questions at you on resolution number 9, and my mistake for not circling back, because I think you didn't answer a couple of my questions, and I'm hoping you can now. The question that I asked was about some of the key terms, if they include a no layoff clause and a minimum staffing requirement.
You want to address that, Rich?
Sure. So there is no layoff clause in this MOA. There's currently a minimum staffing agreement already in place that previously existed. So we're essentially just continuing the status quo until we are allowed to, address that in negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Anything else, Kevin, or was that it?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night. Who's next, Dave?
Next will be Roy Lester.
Okay.
You had a work session on the beach passes the other night. Can we do that publicly?
What do you mean do that publicly?
In other words, there are questions that people have on the beach passes. And because it's work session, people couldn't ask about them. That's what I meant to.
There'll be another work session on Thursday that for a couple more presentations. But you can either email us the questions or ask them at the next council meeting.
All right, so I should wait until my questions until the next presentation, correct?
Yes. And
Okay.
you won't be able to answer them on this next presentation, but you will
No.
be able to get them at the council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things I would like to see change in the work session, allowing people to ask questions about the topic at the work session. But, I've suggested that before, and maybe it'll happen. The other thing is, we were talking about the recreation people and, because there wasn't much recreation during COVID, but now things are opening up. Can we get the rec open on Sunday again?
I'll see what I can do.
Okay,
I'll
because
talk to the recreation
that's when,
staff.
that's when people are off and they could really use it, and not having it open is kind of tough on people. All
Okay.
right, thank you.
Thanks, Roy.
Okay. Who's next, Dave?
Next is William. Hold on.
Who?
Hang on one second.
Oh,
My mouse just covered over.
I heard William and that was it.
Yes. William, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's Depper.
Depper.
Be always silent.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Okay,
sir.
I just want to say, I'm on like 8 committees with the United Way of Long Island. And the way we hold meetings and everything, I want to thank all of you so much, because I'm learning so much about Long Beach. And like Miss Gaydon, you bringing on different departments to explain everything.
Okay.
I really only started getting involved and like listening at the pandemic. Can you hear me?
There's just a little feedback, Mr. Dipper. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, but I mean, I think it's great that you let the community give their input, listen to the meetings and everything like that. Ours, we have invited guests, but it's mostly people who are like in like Ryan White Part A funding and stuff for like people with HIV and AIDS. But I mean, I really want to learn about my community. I want to stay in Long Beach as long as I can. And I mean, you're a great community. I lost everything in Sandy and Island Park. I came to the assisted living here. You know, I had a lot of disparities, but like the Long Beach Police Department, they were there constantly. They even, I commend them because they even bring people that get lost from there who just come into the community and they're driving them back to the assisted living, which is across the street from me, also known as the Old Hoffman Manor. And the fire department too, they're there constantly. I was always treated with respect, kindness. They'd rush me if I had to go to the hospital, whatever. I mean, just awesome the way Long Beach came and helped me when I needed an apartment, and I fought and got myself back healthy. And you know, I went through a lot in this 38 years. I may not have the college experience, but I have the lived experience, and that means a lot. A lot of you know I volunteer at the MLK. I want to go back to that. As Ms. Gaden knows, I did get my COVID vaccine shot. I seen her at Mount Sinai the other day, South Nassau site. So that's really all I have to say is I really commend all of you because you're really working hard to make Long Beach an even better city. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the feedback, the positive feedback, and we're glad we're helping you learn more about Long Beach. And looks like Mr. McNally wants to say something.
Yeah, I would just say in response to Mr. Lesser's last question about the recreational center. So it was, I've been texting with Joe Brand, who's not on tonight and was not asked to be on tonight, but that was Sundays has been what the city has used to close and do a deep cleanse of all of our facilities. It's traditionally a day that has not been highly utilized. So from a cost benefit analysis, and that's not necessarily how we look at everything. But that's the day where we're not bringing in much revenue. We don't have much clients. That's the day that they very early on decided to shut down, you know, and do deep cleansing of all of the facilities. So that's where it currently stands. But you know, as things change and as the situation evolves, we'll continue to do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, Dave, anyone else?
Richard Baker.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Welcome.
Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Yes, I had a quick question. I'd like to know what the status of the ice arena, the RFP, is right now.
Okay.
The RFP is being reworked. So it's going to move forward. Right now, we're looking at what the city has gotten grants to do in the ice arena. And so that is reflected in the RFP. I'm not quite sure if the RFP, the way it was written, we didn't get the response that we were looking for, or we just have to regroup and come back. But we do know that we have a big FEMA project that's going on there. And so I really want to identify all of the work that the city can do, and so that it is clear when we put the RFP back out, what we actually are expecting.
So in other words, it will be opened up again for consideration.
Yes. I can't tell you when, but yes, it
Okay.
will.
So, okay, so I would just want to be clear that the old RFP is kind of null and void at this point, and it's going to
Yes, you should
be
have received a letter, and I will
okay.
check. You should have received a letter stating that it was going to be null and void. One, because of our FEMA project coming up, and two, we needed to make sure that all of the clarifications that we were actually looking for, everybody understands, and that was based on some of the responses. But
So you weren't happy with the responses? Is that pretty much
yeah,
what happened?
what we're trying to do is we're trying to lease the ice
Right.
arena to someone, and I think in the proposals, and don't quote me on it, but I know in the proposals we received, there were management fees that they wanted the city to pay. That is not the intent of the city. Any management fees. So we got to make sure that language is clear.
There were numerous bidders on that, and and we won't know who those people are, I guess, because
yeah, there were a few, I think 3 or 4 bidders on it. Over the last couple of ones that have gone out, it was 3 or 4 bidders. But we will open it up and we'll advertise it more.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm pretty clear on where we are. Basically, kind of back to square one, I guess.
Yes, we are, but we're still moving ahead. We're just
right.
trying to make sure we got a good RFP, and everyone that bidded on it in the past will be notified when the new bid is up.
Okay, so it's a open field for everybody once again.
Yes.
Right, and you're not going to make public whoever proposed bids last time. Is that clear?
I'm not sure where the bids open up on YouTube. We changed the policy that all RFPs have to be opened up. They have to be taped, and then they're on YouTube so everyone can see who bid it on that project.
So I should be able to see that.
Yes, and if you can't, just give me a call.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baker.
All right, have a good night. All right, Dave, anyone else?
Yep, Dan Creighton.
Okay.
Dan,
Hi,
go ahead and
Dan.
unmute.
Hi, everybody. How you doing tonight?
All right.
I just have a quick question. As everybody knows, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 was recently passed by Congress. And I know that in that bill, it provided, in that $1.9 billion bill, trillion dollar bill, it provided $350 billion to help like states, counties, local governments. I just wanted to get an idea of, I believe it's all formulary, but do we know what we're expecting to get as a city from lost revenues due to, revenues in 2020 not being received on the boardwalks and from our local businesses? Do we have an idea of what we're going to be getting, and who are we working with our federal and state partners to make sure that we're getting our fair share of this money?
Donna, you've been working on that, so you want to address that one?
Well, we've been notified that we are getting around $3.6 million. And when we spoke about when we would get the money, they said relatively soon. So since the bill has passed, we do know that individuals are now getting stimulus monies in their accounts. So we're anticipating that we will receive the money in April sometime. And it's about 3.6 million. And what we talked about is that we're looking at any of our debt. We had to borrow money last year for a gap. And we're looking at, can we use some of that money to pay that outstanding debt back so we don't have to budget for it.
And is it strictly formulary, or is there a way to dispute the 3.6? Because it sounds awfully low for revenue that would have been lost by Long Beach in the last fiscal year.
Right now, what we understand is it is by formula, but we are making calls to see if we can get any additional money.
Yeah, it is. I've inquired about that, city manager, and it's formulary.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dan. All right, Dave, who's next?
That's it.
Oh, that was it. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, folks. And it was a long one, but we covered a lot of material tonight. And hope everyone has a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Nine,
Right.
nine